people are asking me these days, it's already the fall. I haven't yet finished with the LSAT. Am I totally screwed? The truth is, you're not. In fact, if you're testing in October or November, you're probably in the best possible position to get into law school. There's this long-standing myth that you've got to apply on the first day of the cycle or you're behind. And that advice might have made sense 10 years ago when admissions was slower and less flexible. But now, law schools expect strong applicants to take the LSAT in the fall or the winter. The cycle has gotten longer and longer over time. They start reviewing applications later, and their budgets for scholarships stay open longer. So taking the LSAT in October, November, January, or even February doesn't make you late, it makes you smart because you've bought yourself three things. You've got time to prep properly. You've got time to submit an actual strong application, and you've still got time to get a real shot at scholarship money. And if you want help figuring out how to maximize that window, I'm giving away free private one-on-one LSAT tutoring lessons right now. There's no catch because too many people are getting bad advice. You can check out the link below this video on YouTube, the link in the description on Instagram, in my bio on Instagram, or in the QR code up in there in the corner. Now, the fall is when admissions actually starts. September is just warm-up mode and committees are just getting organized. But October and November are when they start reading those files for real. The offices are fully staffed, they're awake, and they're not buried under 8,000 personal statements. And when we work with students who apply in early November, we often hear back from schools faster because they submitted while admissions still had mental bandwidth. And so you are not applying late, you're applying when they're paying attention. October is the new September, and November is the new October. The whole calendar has shifted because it used to be the LSAT was offered only 4 times a year. Now it's offered 8 times a year. And so because of all these additional LSAT dates, people are retaking the LSAT more and more. They're prepping smarter, not rushing, and law schools have adapted their review schedules accordingly. And so if you line up with that shift, you actually gain leverage. You're applying while they're reading applications seriously, giving out scholarships, and they're still shaping their classes. And almost nobody realizes this is happening. They're still under the old paradigm from 10, 15, 20 years ago. And so this gives you a massive advantage. The October and November LSATs are still in that peak readiness window. You've had the summer to prep, you're not burned out, and you're applying right when schools start making decisions. And if your LSAT goes well in the fall, you submit your applications this calendar year, right when they're eager to find qualified people. And if the score doesn't hit, if you don't reach your goal, it's fine. You've still got January and February as backup test dates without missing out on this cycle. And I know that November might sound like it's late, but it's not. It's a great window to test, get your score back this year, and submit your applications while scholarship money is still on the table. If you take it in November, you get your score back before Thanksgiving and you submit by early December at the latest, still ahead of most applicants. Of course, November isn't really early, but you're not behind either. And you know who really struggles is those who rushed to apply in September just so they could feel like they were early. But they're submitting with mediocre LSAT scores below what they could have achieved, half-written personal statements, and the resume that is not up to date. And admission officers can tell. If you're early but not ready, you don't get bonus points. You get waitlisted or maybe quietly rejected. But you, on the other hand, you're taking your time and doing it right, and that's not being behind. That is avoiding the trap. Speed is not what wins, quality does. Law schools want an LSAT score above their medians, ideally above their 75th percentile. They want an essay that tells a compelling story, and they want a cohesive, thoughtful application. You've got time to do all that and still apply this calendar year. And law schools reward those who take the process seriously, not those who just rush to hit submit. And early plus bad is still bad. They might read your rushed application once if you submit in September, but then they toss it aside and delay for someone who comes along later but is stronger. And you never get a second shot at making a strong first impression. October and November give you just enough time to get it right without being late. And you've seen those law school stats, LSAT medians, GPA medians, and I know they look scary, but those are not cutoffs. and they're never really locked in until the spring. Law schools have no incentive to care about when you apply, only to care about what numbers you apply with. And so it's better to apply a bit later with a higher score than earlier with a lower score. And law schools do not fill their classes in September. They might send out a few early offers, but the vast majority of decisions and scholarships happen in December, January, and February. And so you're still right in the mix. Those who take in October might have prepped over the summer and they've built the skills, they've done full length tests, and they've had the fall to refine and perfect things. Their applications end up being clean, not rushed, and admission officers notice that. They reward that polish. And taking it in November means you have an additional month to apply and to retake in January if you need to, and you'll still be considered for getting real scholarship money. Of course, November and January aren't early, but they are strategic test dates if you've been prepping smart. Despite what Reddit says, most people don't apply in September. The biggest volume comes between November and January. And so if you're still testing this fall, even if you take it in November and apply early December, you're still ahead of the flood. Now in January, they're drowning in apps, but anytime this year, they're still fresh, they're still sharp, still focused, and that's when you want to get read, not when they're speed scanning essays with one eye twitching. So January, if you have to take it then, it's not a disaster, of course, but it's a little bit riskier. You're applying during peak volume when budgets are a bit tighter and decision fatigue is real. Not too late, but a little bit harder. They will still keep reading applications into the spring, but the later applications will get a little bit less attention, a little bit less aid, and slower decisions. It's no longer the same game, and your odds do decline a little bit. If you were aiming for October, you're taking it in a week. Great target, but you've got 2 retake shots. November, 5 weeks away. January, 3.5 months away. And of course, if October does go well, you're ready to submit, and that's awesome. Same idea for November, right? Score drops late November, retake in January if you need to, and you can still submit in time. Now, taking it in October and November gives you what most people don't have: options. You have the option to submit early, retake if needed, you wait if necessary, and you adjust. And that's real leverage. If you're studying for October, lock it in now. This is the final sprint. This last week matters more than the last 3 months combined. Focus on taking full-length exams and reviewing them in depth. If you're studying for the LSAT full-time, no other obligations, you could take 2 exams over the next week, review them in depth. If you're working, you're in school, you have family obligations, 1 exam over the next week, that's it. If you're taking it in November, you've got 5 weeks for an intensive boot camp style approach. Happy to talk you through those options. Basically, we lock down and focus. We take a standard 3 to 4 month curriculum and compress it into only 4 to 5 weeks with live coaching every single day. Happy to talk you through those options. The idea being that we want to get you a smooth, fast on-ramp to doing full-length exams as quickly as possible once we've built that strong foundation. Now, most people don't fail the LSAT because they're lazy. They fail because they lose momentum. And so if you're taking it in October, November, or January, don't slow down. Trust in your foundation. Now it's time to sharpen things. Now, the majority of students don't even start their applications till December, but you could have your LSAT done, your application submitted, and interviews coming in once you hit submit. Idea being, start drafting your personal statement now and then refine and perfect it during the wait between taking the LSAT and getting your score back. And most importantly, remember, law schools don't admit you for being first. They admit you for being an excellent applicant with an LSAT and GPA above their medians. If your GPA is below, you're going to be a so-called splitter applicant. Balance it out with a higher LSAT score. If you'd like my help, links below. In the meantime, I wish you all the best and take care.